What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Adam, also known as the Plant Power Coach. Today, I'm joined by Alex. Alex, how are you doing today, mate?
Hi, Adam. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I've listened to a lot of episodes of your podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. I know it's some people obviously ask me back, but you've got the YouTube enthusiasm, which is great. That's what we want. I know you've got a significant following compared to my sort of following. Just for anyone who doesn't really know you very well, potentially my followers, could you give us a little bit of an intro of who you are and how we kind of got here today?
Yeah, sure. My name's Alex Walch, otherwise known as YaBonks. So you might see YaBonks on Instagram or YouTube, and I make a full-time living at this point in my life as a YouTuber. So the last 2 years, my YouTube channel took off. About 5 years ago, I started an animal sanctuary with my wife called Karma Farm Sanctuary in Central Florida, and we rescue abused and neglected animals and animals in need, and we get them the help they need, whether it's medical attention, rehabilitation, and then we find them forever homes, either here if we can afford to keep them and have the infrastructure for it, or we find them placement at trusted and vetted forever homes, other sanctuaries, volunteers in the animal rescue community, and things like that. And yeah, so I do YouTube. You can find me online on YouTube at YaBonks, and I talk about like decentralized finance, cryptocurrency, finances, my animal sanctuary, and how I use entrepreneurship, investing, and all that to fund my nonprofit charitable efforts at Karma Farm Sanctuary, and to also support other animal sanctuaries and rescues all over the world, because I know how hard it is to raise funds for animals in need. So that's something I really want to do, is not only fund my own animal sanctuary, but others as well.
That's amazing. And for anyone watching as well, I'm going to be putting all the information that you give me at the end into the description, so you can, donate to the sanctuary or just follow along and whatever you're kind of interested, whether it's the crypto stuff as well. As you can
Thank
imagine,
you.
Alex, this channel, I kind of like thought about this channel for a long time into what it's trying to symbolize and what the sort of message is. And it kind of came down to three different things. Number one being veganism, anything related to helping the animals. A lot of activists, we've had activists on the channel as well. Another part to that, and I'm sure you and I will both agree, that, being vegan isn't necessarily tied into health, but I do want to tie in the plant-based health message. So talking about sort of plant-based foods and stuff. And last but not least, fitness. So everything related to exercise, that sort of stuff too. So to encompass that veganism, plant-based, and fitness, what's your sort of experience with those three things? So when did you go vegan? How does your nutrition look like? And, what made you get into fitness, and why did you decide to choose the avenue that you did?
I guess I'll start chronologically. So ever since I was little, I've been heavily involved in sports, starting with like soccer and gymnastics and stuff, and then eventually moving on to wrestling and cross country and track. And I started bodybuilding when I was 11. So I was watching Dragon Ball Z, and I'm like, I want to be big like Goku. So that's like how I got into bodybuilding, and it fit right in with cross country and wrestling, because I'd bulk all summer, get big, and then cross country would come, and I'd use all that cardio to cut down to make weight for wrestling in the winter, and then I'd run track in the spring. So I just kept doing that all through junior high and high school, and then after that, I got to college, got into engineering and my career and everything, and just have been doing it, fitness as a hobby, just mainly sticking with bodybuilding and long distance running for the past, I don't know, like 15 years now, after high school. But I guess my bodybuilding career, amateur, obviously, I haven't competed or anything. It's just a hobby of mine since from age 11 to I'm 35 now. So that's like, I don't know, a lot of years. I'm an engineer, but what is that, like
24
24
years.
years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a long journey with fitness, and it's something I love, helps keep me sane. Um, and then the vegan aspect of it came into play about 10 years ago. And I always loved animals. And I volunteered for some dog rescues and dog shelters before I went vegan. And I worked with like pit bull rescues and stuff up in Ohio, like Lucas County Pit Crew, an amazing organization and that rescues dogs from like dog fighting rings and dog fighting breeders. So I saw some really brutal stuff and horrible animal abuse there. And that kind of started like opening my eyes to things. And then one of my best friends showed me the movie Vegucated, and immediately after that showed me Earthlings, and it was game over. As soon as I saw that, I was vegan overnight, and I never looked back 10 years later.
Amazing.
So yeah,
Vegucated. I've got to look into that one actually, because we've had a conversation about Earthlings, Dominions. Those are the kind of more common ones. Vegetation, is that in relation to the animals or the health, or is that kind of like a bit of everything?
it's a mix. Yeah,
It's a mix. It's a mix. Cool.
yeah,
Besides the vegetation, and besides, you said it was Earthlings. You mentioned there
yeah.
was the other.
Earthlings.
Yeah. So what was
Yeah,
like your understanding of veganism beforehand? Because like, you get people, I've had people on this channel and they were kind of like very anti-vegan, kind of like myself really. Or were you kind of more understanding? Like what was your position before you watched these things on the even just the word, hearing the word vegan?
I never gave it too much thought, even though my sister has been vegetarian basically her entire life. I never thought much of it, and even her being vegetarian, I just thought it was, when I was little, I was just like, oh, that's strange, haha. But I never really put anything together in my head. So it's just a big disconnect for so long until I was about 25, and I don't know, maybe my brain was ready, maybe I was ready as a person to see that and digest it.
Mm,
And when I did that, something clicked in my brain where I was like, oh, whoa, even if I'm just eating this stuff, I'm directly contributing to animal abuse. When you see it directly in the slaughterhouses, in the fur industries, in laboratory testing, in the dairy and egg industries, it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want that on my soul. I got enough stuff weighing on my soul already. I don't need that darkness here. So yeah, I guess that was my understanding beforehand was very little. I didn't ever think about it. And the word vegan really didn't mean anything to me.
mm,
Never had any meaningful conversations about it. My sister, growing up as a vegetarian, we always just thought, me and my other siblings were just like, oh, she doesn't want to kill animals or whatever. You know, that's interesting. But yeah, so the fact that I had a vegetarian sister and I never gave it too much thought surprises me.
mm,
And she's still vegetarian to this day. And ever since I went vegan, I guess it's kind of a blessing that my sister was vegetarian for so long because my whole family was very
mm.
supportive about it. And they just, maybe poke fun here and there in like a kind hearted way. But other than that, they are very supportive, provide vegan options when we get together at the holidays and stuff like that. And so that was, I guess, my experience.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
the kind of what you're kind of pointing out there is the fact that why does the word veganism even exist? Like, we don't have a word for someone who doesn't murder, it's just there's no word for it really. So I think that's I think a good thing that you've kind of brought up there. And it's good to know that you've got such a background of such an accepting family, because as you
Yeah.
can imagine, not everyone has that kind of support. And I think that's a lot of the reasons people end up going backwards on their morals and ethics, because of such social pressures related to family and friends. So,
Yeah.
well done to you. And also, I kind of want to
Thank
know
you.
a little bit about like I've actually spoken to George. Is one of my first interviews that I had, and he's an activist. And one of the things that we talked about was the fact that being vegan wasn't being just vegan isn't enough. It's more about kind of leaning into the activism side. And you've mentioned some stuff on running a sanctuary and doing some sort of
Mhm.
stuff there. Can you tell us a little bit about your sanctuary and if there's any other sort of other forms of activism that you do right now?
Sure. So Karma Farm Sanctuary is our way of providing help for animals in need in these oftentimes time sensitive situations. So we're looped into these vegan animal rescue networks on like Facebook and other platforms, and we're really tied in with a lot of the other animal sanctuary owners. and the volunteer activists around Florida and the southeastern United States and all over the country, even. And at times, an animal will be in need and it goes through the network. And if we are in a position at that moment to be able to do something, like then we do it, we do our part to get that animal help. So that's like
Mm.
our form of activism is very very hands-on.
Yep.
So if there's an animal that's like has a clock ticking on it or is being like actively abused, um we go in there and we get that animal out, or we mobilize the people and resources to get that animal out of that situation, get them to a veterinary hospital, get them fixed up, and then get them to a safe place, and
Mm.
then find them forever home placement. So that's what we do at Karma Farm Sanctuary. We've got around 30 full-time residents at any time, and that number is always fluctuating as they pass from natural causes. You know, that's the really hard part about running a sanctuary
Mm.
too. You care for them every day, and then some, you know, they eventually pass on, and that's like a family member. But I won't get too into that. It's kind of a really Debbie Downer
Yeah.
subject, but like we do what we can here, and it's a 24/7 type of work. It
Yep.
never stops. It's as soon as you wake up before the sun to long after the sun goes down. Like there is so much work to be done here at the sanctuary, 7 days a week, and it's just my wife and I. So we don't really get days off, and it's been many years now. And then on top of that, you have to hustle and grind to get the money to do this work. So it's
Yep.
like a double or triple whammy because we have to work sometimes 2 or 3 jobs or businesses to fund this thing because it is not cheap. Sometimes we'll get hit with $10,000+ in vet bills in a single month, and it's just like, get out the credit cards. We're gonna
Wow.
figure this one out later. Like, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
And really, I think it has a great effect on people when you tell them you run an animal rescue or sanctuary, especially if they're not vegan, because everybody generally everybody loves animals, and they will tell you that. Just like I loved animals my whole life, and even if they haven't, you know, put the whole vegan thing together yet, it's an easy way to bridge that conversation and to say, yeah, we rescue everything from cats and dogs to pigs and goats and geese and ducks and
Mm.
chickens. And then they start thinking, oh, huh. And then they come and they go on your social media and they see you playing with a pig like a dog.
Yep.
And that, like my pig, Scarlet, she can sit like a dog on command. She's super smart. And it blows their minds apart. And they're just like, whoa,
Yep.
I didn't realize pigs were that smart and emotional and relatable. And it kind of gets those things
Mm.
turning in their heads. It plants those seeds without you having to argue offensively in a way that closes them off
Yep.
from the
Yep.
discussion.
I want,
So that's another way that this works as activism.
absolutely. I want to dive onto that as well. The what you just mentioned, that last point. Before I go to that point, just in your own experience, I imagine every sanctuary is different, especially depending on where you are in the world, depending where you are in the States. In your own experience in your sanctuary, which animals need the most help right now? Is it those typical chickens and pigs, or is it more like cats and dogs? Like, what's your experience with
Definitely chickens and pigs.
chickens and pigs? Okay, those two
Chickens and pigs.
exactly.
Yeah, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want to I want to start a homestead," and they romanticize this whole
Mm.
idea of living in the country and producing their own food, and they're like, "Well, I'm going to grow a garden and I'm going to have chickens for eggs or ducks for eggs." And then very quickly they realize they can't
Yeah.
manage it, or they don't want the roosters, but they got a whole bunch of eggs or like baby chicks shipped to them, and half of them are roosters. So they just like
Wow.
either throw them away, like get rid of them, um, or they end up in the shelters. Like the Humane Society here is just overflowing with chickens and pigs, in addition to dogs and cats and everything. Um, and people also do the same with pigs. They'll breed pigs for food, but they don't realize a pig litter can be like 14 piglets, and they can lay they can have babies year after year like that. So it's like 14 14. Then
Yep.
then those babies are having babies. It quickly goes out of control. And a lot of times they grow attached to these pigs because they're amazing, uh, intelligent, sweet souls. And they're like, I don't want to kill my kid's pet pig.
Yeah.
So, but it's too big. We can't handle a 300 pound pig at our house. So we're going to have to get rid of it. And then
Yeah.
it goes to the shelter where eventually it gets put down.
Yep.
Or they call somebody to come kill the pig,
Yep.
and take the meat or whatever. Um, and it's crazy. It's really an epidemic, and the whole like potbelly pig craze where people are obsessed with mini pigs
Yeah.
because like Miley Cyrus had a mini pig, and then all these like little girls were like, "Mom, Dad, I want a mini pig," and then the parents like, "Okay, let's." And then there are these unscrupulous pig breeders that capitalized on the situation, and they would take potbelly pigs, which can grow to be 300 pounds, but when they're babies, they are tiny and cute, and they sell these as like mini pigs or like teacup pigs. They put fancy labels on them and say, "Oh, this pig
Yeah.
will be at max 50 or 60 pounds." Sell them to these parents. The kids are all like, "Yay!" It's like the new pony or whatever, and for kids or something. And the kid falls in love with the pig. All of a sudden, the pig's 200 pounds, and the parents like, "We can't have this in our suburban house or our apartment, and it's 5 times the size of our child.
Yep.
We got to get rid of this thing." And then it ends up at the shelter or a sanctuary. Almost all the sanctuaries are full at capacity with pigs.
Yep.
It's really hard to find placement for pigs, really is. um so yeah, pigs and chickens
Yeah.
in terms of animal sanctuaries are just uh it's a heavy
Yeah.
burden on everybody right now.
Whenever I have the conversations with people about veganism, they kind of bring up the fact of like, oh, if we didn't kill these animals, they would overpopulate, and it's just fascinating to me that kind of don't understand how this works. It's essentially broken down into two parts. We shouldn't have to kill these animals, but we also they shouldn't essentially exist in the first place, if you know what I mean. So is that like being having your own sanctuary and that sort of thing? Is it about like getting these animals neutered? Like, is someone watching this video right now? What sort of advice would you give to them to say, get your animals neutered? It's not just cats and dogs. Is that, am I correct in assuming that?
For the most part, yes, and it's a contentious topic even amongst animal rescuers and sanctuaries. I think a lot of people agree, spay or neuter, because I think what happens is a lot of people let their animals go, or they get out, or they end up hooking up with another animal, and then they have a litter or something. Now there are risks, obviously, to any surgery, so you always have to weigh that in what you're doing. So like maybe you have an elderly animal, or some animals like a spay procedure, like larger farm animals can be very dangerous. We've heard tons of really heartbreaking stories of like pigs getting spayed and dying from the procedure. Now, if you run a huge sanctuary and you have all the animals integrated into large pastures together, you might have to do that, and take those risks for everybody. But if you've got a small sanctuary and you've got very well fortified fences and everything sectioned off, where you have like, if you have male and female pigs or animals and you could keep them separate, maybe you have a little more flexibility in terms of that. But if they do break out and they mate with like a wild boar or something in the area, that's not great.
Yep.
Then you're going to contribute to the problem. So you really have to weigh it uh, on a case by case basis. And I'll never judge somebody for not doing it unless they are just like wildly irresponsible with their animals. But if you're like a really great animal caretaker and you minimize all chances of breeding, then I think you deserve to make that decision on your own.
Yep.
Because, like I said, it can be a risky procedure. And I've been involved. I have helped with multiple spay and neuter operations with farm animals, with vets that come out to sanctuaries, and I see it firsthand. and every animal's different. So,
Yep. Yep.
but like especially dogs and cats, uh, that if there are areas where it is out of control, so like the catch and release programs for wild cats and like feral cats and dogs, I think those are great programs, and I think those definitely do cut down on the amount of suffering that is going on in the
Mm.
world. So I think it depends on your situation and context of if it's right or not. But for the
Yep.
most part, I would say it's probably a good idea unless you have a special case.
Yep. Absolutely. I know it's going to sound like a bit of a change of subject now. We've talked about the sort of
Yeah,
activism side, the animal side. I love that. Considering you don't eat animals, Alex, where do you get your protein from?
I don't get any protein. Um, I I don't know, man. I I mean everything. There's protein basically in everything. If you're eating even a marginally balanced diet, you're most likely fine on protein. It's it's a myth perpetuated by different industries and memes and things like that. So I think it's overplayed, but it's always funny to make fun of it. Like, where do you get your protein? And you're asking like a 220-pound vegan bodybuilder that, and it's that's not me. I'm talking like my friend John.
Yeah.
John, the bodybuilding vegan.
Yeah.
Actually, here I got his water bottle right here. He's my really good friend, and I'm actually lifting weights with him after this interview. We're gonna go to the gym together, but I get protein from everything, man. I I mainly get it from like peas and legumes and grains and fruits, nuts. I mean, you name it. There's protein in everything. And the days I want to go way high on my protein, which isn't really necessary. I think most people, when they're bodybuilding, tend to consume more protein than they actually need to build muscle. But it makes the math kind of easier sometimes and easier to hit those targets.
Yep.
Um, so like I love pea protein powder. So when I was growing up, I would use like whey protein powder or whatever. But like I just buy the cheapest pea protein powder I can find. It's dirt cheap, and I'll just like have one or two of those like a day, maybe after my workout, and maybe one when I wake up or right before I go to bed. And then I just have like a normal diet on top of that, whatever my wife cooks. She's a registered dietitian, so she's really great at cooking well balanced meals. Where I'm kind of like a very primitive person, and I'll just like grab apples and eat them and bananas. I'll grab like a frozen bag of peas and just eat that plain. And I'll just like drink protein shakes. I'll just eat like bread. I don't like cooking. It's just more work for me. So any way I can avoid extra work on top of all the other stuff I do, I avoid it. So I don't cook. I don't make fancy stuff. My wife does. She'll make like tofu scrambles and all like stir fries, stuff like that. So thanks to her, I have a colorful, balanced diet. And then on top of that, I have much higher calorie and macro needs than she does. She's 105 pounds soaking wet, where like I'm, 180 and trying to get bigger than that. So I have to eat significantly more calories.
Mm.
So then I just throw in like apples, bananas, peas, protein shake, and that basically covers it. And I'm overshooting the recommended protein targets
Yep.
for athletes. If you look at like the studies and things, it's like 0.75 grams of protein per pound of body weight is more than enough to
Yep.
build muscle as an athlete. And I still target 1 gram per pound of body weight because I've always done that my
Yep.
whole life. And it makes the math easy in my head. And then if I miss a meal or a protein shake somewhere in there throughout the day, it's not a big deal because I've already hit my minimum to grow.
I think a lot of people that don't like ask you the question about protein probably don't even know how much protein they're consuming themselves, which makes you think that if you don't know how much protein you're consuming and you don't know how much the recommended daily intake is, I don't know why you'd be asking that question. But I think
Yeah,
your wife is great for cooking for you. I'm the same situation. I actually don't track my macros or calories or anything right now, and she just makes food for me, has plenty of protein in it, like everything from tofu, tempeh, all the sort of standard protein sources.
nice.
I love it, a good variety, like you said, all the colors of the rainbow. So I think that's the kind of best approach to it. And if you just have a balanced diet, like you said, like protein is never going to be an issue, really. It's almost impossible. Um,
I agree.
I
And
do
I
have,
think we're very lucky to have wonderful
yeah,
wives and partners that are able to do that. So if you don't, by the way, I did bodybuilding long before I met my wife, and even as a very simple man when it comes to food, you can still absolutely do it. Just hit those targets, and I don't measure my calories exactly either. I'm actually pretty good at feeling it out
mm,
and averaging my weight on the scale over an entire week
yep,
and then charting the trend. And if I'm trending downwards and I'm trying to bulk, then I'll add another small meal, 250,
yep,
maybe 500 calories. And then I'll normally see it start going back up.
yep,
And if I get too fat while I'm bulking, then I'll do like a mini cut and I'll just take out 250 to
yep,
500 calories. And I can generally feel when I've had enough calories throughout the day. And then I just kind of audit my feelings
yep,
with my average weight on the scale over weekly time periods.
yep. If John's watching this video, you keep tracking your macros, mate. You're a bodybuilder. You got to
Yes,
keep going.
I know,
Uh,
I know. I'm a
um,
layperson, dude. I don't
yeah,
compete. I don't plan on it. I just love it. I love I love lifting weights, building muscle, being able to carry heavy stuff and wrangle very strong animals. It's very useful at
yeah,
an animal sanctuary to be able to chop up trees and
yep,
uh dig holes, shovel manure, hold a
yeah,
300-pound pig that's pure muscle and try not to die and stuff like that. Carry hay bales and
yeah,
so it definitely helps. I think if you run an animal sanctuary, definitely do some strength training because it makes life a bit easier when you're
absolutely.
doing a lot of manual work on a farm.
We're a bit short on time here, but I just want a couple minutes, or like not a couple minutes, in a couple sentences. I'm just very curious on this last part. What would you say to your older self in the context of veganism and fitness? So before you were into fitness, before you went vegan, what would you say to to that person?
Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Uh, just try to improve on yourself and try to fulfill your own genetic potential,
Mhm.
whatever that is, and be okay and content with wherever you are because the fact that you're even putting in the effort is a wonderful thing and you should be happy about that.
I love that. That's so good. Last but not
Yes.
least, where can people find you? We'll put in the description below, sanctuary details, your Instagram handles. Where's the best place to reach you?
You can reach me on basically any social media platform at YaBonks. So Instagram at YaBonks. Got a really large following there. My YouTube channel, youtube.com/YaBonks. I think I'm almost to 20,000 subscribers. It's been growing like gangbusters over the last 2 years. So check out my YouTube channel, subscribe to it, like the videos, because that's what helps me support Karma Farm Sanctuary. So every subscriber, every like, every view, even if you're not interested in any of the stuff I talk about, it helps out the animal sanctuary. So really, it helps me and the animals here. So thank you guys who subscribe. And shoot me a DM anytime. I know it can be hard out here, and if you're like vegan and you're dealing with a lot of psychological stuff because of it, because it's a tricky psychological landscape to navigate, send me a DM. I try my best to respond to everybody, and I've made so many wonderful friends out here. So hit me up if you got any questions, concerns, you need somebody to talk to. Message me at YaBonks, and feel free to DM Karma Farm Sanctuary. So we're mainly on Instagram and Facebook at Karma Farm Sanctuary. We are a 501c3 nonprofit charity in the state of Florida in the United States. So all of your donations are tax exempt and all that good stuff. And it goes to a great cause. We help so many animals. We can tell you all the stories of the stuff we see in the animals, each animal. If you want to sponsor an animal, let us know. And please join our Patreon. You can choose however much you want to donate a month. And it helps us so much. So that way we know we've got X amount of dollars from our Patreon supporters that we can put towards the vet bills or the hay bill or the food bills. So please support us if you can, and support the animal sanctuaries around you, because it's something that this world needs more of, and we need more kindness and compassion, not only to people, but to animals too.
I love that. Thank you so much, Alex. And again, anyone watching, I'll put the description, I'll put all the information. Do what you can. And yeah, Alex, thank you so much for your time, dude. I'm gonna leave it there, but awesome, awesome meeting you, dude.
Thank you, Adam. Really nice meeting you too.
Thanks, Alex. Bye.